For the last few weeks, Donald Trump has been going everywhere, running his mouth about executing drug dealers, executing drug dealers. Well, I hope he understands that most of the drug dealers out here are white. They are not black guys, they are white. So, ladies and gentlemen, watch the load of hypocrisy when they start getting white men and women dealing these drugs. Let's see how fast he walks back this death penalty stuff. But when it's a black guy, they'll want him dead. White House opioid crisis to include death penalty. So they're going to actually include this. And you know where he's getting it from, the Philippines, President Duarte. That's where he's getting it from. But see, that man's a little different. He not only kills the dealers, he also kills a lot of them junkies over there too. And it's really counterproductive, y'all. Even the dealers and the police will tell you for every dealer they take off the street, there's about 10 more cropping up. And it's happening more now than ever because, see, many of these junkies cannot get jobs. So what happened in the black community when people couldn't get jobs? They turned to drug dealing. Well, guess what? It's happening in the white community. Those that can't hang on to a job because they are high all the time or they can't pass a drug test to get a job, they're now turning to drug dealing. So again, let's see the double standards that happen. I promise you. Well, they made a mistake. They shouldn't have to die. They made a mistake. I can hear it right now. The White House is proving that when it comes to drug destroying white communities, there's no limit to what it is willing to do to stop it, including death. To dealers, not the users. Remember, the users have amnesty in this country. They can't get in trouble for anything. Nothing is their fault. Because the White House is completely invested in solving the opioid plague, which disproportionately affects white people, it is willing to kill the people who sell them drugs. I'm telling you, it ain't going to work. It ain't going to deter any drug dealer out here. They're still going to be on the streets. According to Politico, Donald Trump is set to unveil a new plan that would call for the death penalty as an option when drug dealing and trafficking are directly responsible for death in cases involving opioids. The plan, which is still being finalized, could be released early next week. But Trump has been gushing privately for weeks about using the death penalty in drug cases in which the user dies. Because Trump can't stop campaigning, he's even praised countries that execute drug lords, The Hill reports. If you go to Singapore, and he's right about Singapore, even a couple of Americans have been executed for drugs in Singapore. They got caught with drugs and put to death. And I remember there was a case when I was in Germany, and the American government was trying to get them, the Americans that were about to be executed, and they couldn't. They ended up executing them. See, they don't play that. They don't care if you are a citizen or you are a foreigner. Singapore is a very Muslim. A lot of Muslims are there, and they don't play that. You come in there with drugs, they will hang you. They still have public hangings to this day in Singapore. Okay, and I say, Mr. President, what happens with your drugs? We don't have a problem. We have zero tolerance. We have a different type of people. Trump said in discussing Singapore's policy, according to The Hill. Well, this ain't Singapore, Trump. They have public hangings. That's how they execute their people. So what does he want public hangings? They don't play games, I said. How are you doing on drugs? No problem, I said. What do you mean, no problem? We have zero tolerance policy. What does that mean? That means if we catch a drug dealer, death penalty. And that's true for Singapore as well as the Philippines. Political notes that Trump's plan is expected to include recommendations from his opioid commission is a mixture of increased law enforcement measures and increased prevention and treatment, among other efforts. Because the opioid plague largely affects a swath of white communities, this decisive and openly racist as administration declared it an epidemic. This is what the article says, and a national public health emergency in October, and was last extended in January by the Trump administration. Sounds like the Trump administration plans to criminalize those who sell the drug while working on treatment plans for those who use the drugs. And I'm telling you, that's why it will never work. That's why this is never going to work. Any junkie out here can tell you several dealers that they buy from. They don't just know one dealer and that's it. Many of them know multiple dealers. Okay. So we won't know this for sure until the plan is released. But I assure you that there is nothing racist to see here. Nope, not one thing. Well, since this will be released next week, we'll see what it says. I'll try to keep up with this story. It'll be interesting to say the least. Like I said, many of these people dealing, and I can show you the stories, are predominantly white. And I showed you the 5 people from the same family that was trafficking drugs. Many of you saw that story. So I'm just saying, I'm telling you, you're going to see a lot of double standards going on when they start catching white men and women dealing drugs. All of a sudden, they're going to walk back all of this conversation about executing. You watch. I know what I'm talking about. Please tell me what you think. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell twice. Join me on Black Junction TV and blackspot.com. Peace, family.